There were two glasses on the counter. Only one had lipstick on it. And the ring was gone. Not lost. Not misplaced. Gone. I didn't hear the door close. I didn't hear the Uber. I didn't hear her heels on the stairs. But I heard the silence that came afterward. It sounded like the end of a prayer. Like something sacred had just died. The champagne bottle was still sweating on the granite. Unopened. It was supposed to be a small celebration. Friday night. Her new job offer. Our first win in months. She texted me earlier that she wanted to dress up. Feel human again. I ironed my shirt. Lit the candles. I even shaved, which I hadn't done in 4 days. At 7:18 p.m., she walked out of the bedroom wearing something that made me forget every bad day we ever had. At 7:22 p.m., I made the mistake of asking, "So, just us tonight?" She paused, like I'd interrupted a thought she didn't want me in. Then she smiled. "Actually, I'm heading out. Just for a bit." My throat tightened, but I swallowed it. "With who?" "Don't start," she said quickly, not angry, just bored. There was a pause. Then I said it. Not loudly, not angrily, just fact. "If you go, don't come back." I swear her smile didn't even flinch, like she'd rehearsed this scene 100 times in her head. She picked up one glass, took the bottle, paused. Then, she slid the wedding ring off her finger. No drama, no tears. Set it down on the granite beside the second glass. Turned, and left. "No, we'll talk later." "No, you're being ridiculous." Just that casual indifference that hits harder than rage ever could. I stood there staring at that one glass. One ring. One choice. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just opened her laptop. Something in me knew where to look. Her junk email. The one she used for online shopping and spam. What I found wasn't spam. There were receipts. A hotel reservation under her maiden name. Photos, nothing graphic. Just her, with someone else's jacket around her shoulders. Dinner at the resort 2 towns over. The date was 2 weeks ago. And a final message draft in her outbox, unsent. "I'll tell him soon. He's not going to fight it. He never does." She was right. Until now. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen, in the same chair where I used to wait for her to finish her long shifts and tell me about rude customers and frozen yogurt cravings. Now, all I had was the sound of the fridge humming and a wedding ring staring back at me from the marble counter like it was mocking me. Every time I looked away, it felt like it was still watching. Around 2 a.m., I opened the windows. The house felt too quiet, not peaceful, just hollow. I tried to convince myself that maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe I was just overreacting. Maybe the hotel receipts were work-related. Maybe the guy in the photo was a cousin or a friend or someone irrelevant. But that line from her draft email, "He won't fight it. He never does," kept repeating in my head like it was tattooed behind my eyes. I didn't realize I had fallen asleep at the kitchen table until I woke up to the sound of the front door. It creaked open slowly. I heard soft footsteps, then silence. I stayed still, breathing shallow, listening. The sound of her boots stopped near the hallway mirror. She always checked herself when she came in, even when she thought I was asleep. There was a rustle, fabric, maybe her taking off the red jacket, then more footsteps, and then the door closed again. Not her bedroom door, the front door. She hadn't come home. She had forgotten something, and she didn't expect me to be awake. Curiosity took over where self-respect had already failed. I got up and checked the foyer. Gone. But the red jacket? Still hanging there. And beneath it, on the floor, was a folded receipt. From the same hotel. But this one was different. Different room. Different date. Different name. I picked it up. Scanned the paper. My stomach turned when I saw the note scribbled in pen at the bottom. Use the name Kimberly. Front desk knows. Kimberly? That wasn't her name. It wasn't even close. I stood there, gripping the paper like it might burn through my palm. Who the hell was Kimberly? I went back to the kitchen, desperate to think. Maybe it was just a mistake. A joke. A prank. I paced for a while. Checked her drawers. Her closet. Nothing suspicious. Until I pulled out the bottom drawer in the kitchen, the one with the mismatched utensils and dead batteries, and noticed it wasn't closing all the way. Something was stuck. I crouched down and saw it. A thin yellow envelope wedged beneath the cutting board shelf. I pulled it out. No name. No address. Just 2 things inside. A folded handwritten letter and a second key to our safe. She didn't know I'd moved the safe to the bedroom closet 3 months ago. The second key shouldn't have even existed anymore. I changed it after our last argument. The one where she said she felt suffocated by routine. I told her I wanted to protect what we still had. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're always protecting things that are already gone." I opened the letter. The first line stopped my breath. "Kelton, I didn't want you to find this. But if you do, then I guess I've already made up my mind." She had written it in her handwriting, calm, steady, even graceful, but the content was anything but graceful. She wrote about how she had fallen out of love slowly, like the dimming of a light bulb no one replaces. How the man she once knew had melted into safety. How she hated the way I made sandwiches in silence. How she had met someone who made her feel alive. I read every word twice. And when I got to the last line, I sat down hard, almost knocking the chair over. "Don't try to find him. He's not your enemy. You are." I stared at that sentence until the sun came up. By then, I had made a decision. I was going to open the safe, and whatever was inside was going to rewrite everything I thought I knew about our marriage. When I opened the safe, I wasn't expecting anything. Maybe old tax files, a birth certificate, the emergency cash we kept for power outages and forgotten anniversaries. I certainly wasn't expecting a black flash drive. No label, no case, just loose, taped to the inside of the safe wall like someone was hiding it from both of us. I stared at it for a long time, like it might hiss or spark or confess to me directly. The irony, of course, is that I almost didn't plug it in. I almost threw it away, thinking maybe it was part of something unrelated, something left over from a tech repair guy or some work document Mara meant to file years ago. But that voice in my head, the one that had stayed quiet through years of being passive, silent, safe, whispered something I hadn't heard in a while. Don't let her control the narrative. So I got my laptop, closed the blinds, plugged it in. There was only one file, a single audio recording. No title, just a timestamp from 2 weeks ago. I clicked play. Static. Then silence. Then a voice. Not Mara's. Not mine. A man. Calm, a little raspy, a little smug. "She said you'd never look here, Kelton," he said. "But just in case, I wanted you to hear it from me." I froze. The voice continued, unbothered. "You think she's the villain. That she lied, cheated, manipulated. Maybe she did. But you? You left her long before I ever touched her. You just didn't notice. And now it's too late. But don't worry, this isn't a confession. It's a courtesy." My hands were shaking. My mouth was dry. He knew my name. He knew I'd find this. And he sounded like this wasn't the first time he'd done this to someone. He kept talking. "I'm not going to tell you who I am. Not yet. But I will say this. The night she came to me, she didn't cry. She didn't hesitate. She came in knowing what she wanted. She said, 'He'll never fight back. He doesn't even know who I am anymore.' And she was right, wasn't she?" My stomach churned. I reached to pause the file, but I couldn't. My fingers hovered, trembling. I needed to hear it. Needed to know what kind of man was confident enough to leave a message like this. "You'll probably tear up the house looking for proof now," the voice said. "You'll dig through drawers, check emails, maybe call her mother. You'll want to know how long it's been going on. You won't find an answer you like. So let me give you one. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you lost her without even noticing. That's the real betrayal, Kelton. Not her body. Her absence." The recording clicked off. I yanked the flash drive out and threw it across the room like it had bitten me. It hit the wall, bounced onto the rug, and I just sat there staring at it like it was a gun I'd accidentally fired. The rage didn't come right away. That would have been easy. What came was shame. I remembered every moment I could have tried harder. The birthday dinner I canceled because of work. The time she cried in the car and I didn't ask why. The nights I rolled away from her in bed, thinking silence would keep the peace. I thought I was being patient. I thought I was giving her space. I thought I was being a good husband. Turns out, I was giving her room to disappear. But then something shifted. A coldness in my chest. I stood up, walked to the fridge, opened a beer I didn't want, and made a decision I hadn't made in years. I was done playing the victim. I was done making it easy for her. If she wanted to walk away from this marriage without consequences, she chose the wrong man to underestimate. And I had no idea yet that I'd be getting help from someone even she didn't see coming. The package showed up the next morning, just after 9 a.m. No knock, no doorbell, just a small brown box sitting quietly on my welcome mat like it had been dropped off by ghosts. No return address. Just my name scribbled on the top in thick black marker. Kelton, all caps, underlined twice like whoever wrote it wanted to make sure I knew this wasn't a mistake. I stared at it through the peephole for almost 2 minutes. That's how paranoid I'd become in just 48 hours. I half expected it to explode when I touched it, or contain something rotted. A threat, a warning. But when I finally opened the door and picked it up, it was light. Too light. I brought it inside, set it on the table, and sliced through the tape with a butter knife. Inside wasn't what I expected. There was no bomb, no blood, no dead animal. Just an old-school disposable camera. The kind with the winding wheel and the plastic lens you can't adjust. A single strip of masking tape wrapped around the body. On it, a message in handwriting I didn't recognize. Develop these. Don't let her find out. I stared at it for a long time. The words weren't familiar. The handwriting wasn't hers. And the implications were a storm I wasn't ready to walk into yet. I sat back, chewing the inside of my cheek. Who would send me something like this? And more importantly, who still used a disposable camera in 2025? That paranoia crept back in. Was someone watching me? Was this a setup? But curiosity eats faster than fear. Always has. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to a 1-hour photo lab 20 minutes outside town. The only one still standing since everything went digital. The guy at the counter looked like he'd been waiting for the store to close permanently for the past decade. I handed him the camera, didn't say much, and when he asked for a callback number, I just gave him my name and said I'd wait. Exactly 49 minutes later, he handed me an envelope. No charge. Just a strange look like he'd seen something he didn't want to talk about. Back in the car, I opened the envelope, fully expecting grainy black and white pictures of rooftops, strangers, maybe nothing at all. But that's not what I got. The first few photos were blurred, badly lit, taken through a car window at night. I saw streetlights, the corner of a neon sign. Then Mara, walking, alone, wearing the same red jacket from 2 nights ago. In the next shot, she wasn't alone. There was a man, taller than her, broad-shouldered, hand resting on her back like he'd done it 1,000 times. His face was turned away from the camera. Next photo, Mara entering a building. Next, her kissing him. Not a greeting. Not friendly. The kind of kiss that lingers. That remembers. My hands went cold. I kept flipping. Then things got darker. Next photo, her standing in what looked like a hotel hallway, arguing with someone. Not the same man. A different man. Younger. Tattoo on his neck. He was holding something. A bag? Money? Flip. Another photo, Mara crying. Alone. Sitting in the lobby of a place I didn't recognize. Hair tied up. Same red jacket balled in her lap, like a discarded costume. And then the last photo. The one that made my heart stop. It was me. Taken through the window of my own house. I was sitting at the kitchen table, hunched over my laptop, probably reading that damn email again, unaware that someone, whoever sent this, had been close enough to capture me through the glass. So now I had 2 problems. 1, my wife wasn't just cheating. She was involved in something bigger, more dangerous. There were other men, other arguments, money. 2, someone was tracking both of us, photographing us, sending anonymous packages with cryptic warnings. I didn't know if they were trying to help me or threaten me. But either way, I wasn't just a bystander anymore. I was being pulled into a game I never agreed to play. And Mara? She wasn't just hiding secrets. She was hiding enemies. I didn't sleep that night, again. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that final photo. Me, hunched in my kitchen, completely unaware that someone had been outside my home, watching. I thought I'd reached the lowest point already. Turns out I was still falling, and the bottom hadn't even come into view yet. The photos haunted me, especially the one of Mara crying alone. For a moment, and I hate that this happened, I felt bad for her. For all the betrayal, for all the distance and silence and lies, that one image cracked through my anger. She looked like a kid who had run away and realized too late that no one was coming to find her. But I had to remind myself, tears don't cancel betrayal, and sadness doesn't equal innocence. Still, I had questions, and there was only one way I was going to get answers now. I needed to find the man in the tattoo. I zoomed in on that photo for what felt like hours. His neck was turned just enough for me to catch a glimpse, a black outline of something like a bird or a blade, curled behind his ear, trailing down toward the collarbone. I couldn't make out the full design, but it was distinct. At 11 a.m., I drove back to the place from the photos, a motel just off Highway 23 called the Cypress Inn. I'd driven past it dozens of times and never paid attention. A pale green building with one flickering neon sign and a reputation for low rates and no questions asked. I parked across the street and waited. It felt ridiculous at first, like I was a child playing detective. But around noon, a rusted-out blue pickup truck pulled into the lot, and out stepped the man with the tattoo. I recognized him instantly. Same haircut, same slouched gait. He was carrying a fast food bag and smoking a cigarette like the whole world owed him something. I got out of the car, walked across the street, and before I could lose my nerve, I called out, "Hey, you know Mara?" He froze like I'd tasered him. Slowly, he turned, looked me up and down, squinted. "You her husband?" I nodded once, not trusting my voice. He scoffed, muttered sh*t, and tossed the cigarette. "You shouldn't be here." "What do you mean? She didn't tell you anything, huh?" he said, half amused. "Yeah, that tracks." I stepped closer. "Tell me what?" He shook his head. "Man, I don't want to be involved. I was just doing what I was paid to do." "Paid to do what?" He hesitated. "I was supposed to meet her. Give her something. Pick up a package. That's it." "What kind of package?" He gave me a strange look, like I was asking the wrong questions. "I don't know. I don't ask." But she never showed. Then some other dude showed up, started asking about her. Real serious type. Didn't say much. Had gloves on. Middle of summer. Who the hell wears gloves in summer? My stomach dropped. What happened after that? I left. Haven't been back since. Until today. Thought maybe the money would still be there. It wasn't. He turned like he was going to walk away, but I stepped in front of him. "You said someone else was asking about her. Did he say who he was?" "No. But he wasn't the kind of guy you press for details. Black SUV. Out-of-state plates. Looked like he could make you disappear without raising his voice." Something about the way he said it made the hair on my neck stand up. I asked, "Is Mara in danger?" He paused. "From you?" "Nah," he said with a smirk. "From him? Probably." And just like that, he walked away, tossed his trash in the bin, and drove off like he hadn't just flipped my entire world upside down. I got back in my car, hands trembling. The man with the tattoo had no reason to lie. And now, I wasn't just dealing with infidelity. There were men showing up in gloves, black SUVs, unclaimed packages, and Mara had left me out of all of it. Not because she didn't trust me, because she didn't want me to know who she'd gotten involved with. And now I had to ask myself a question I never thought I'd have to. What the hell has my wife been doing when she disappears at night? She walked in at 1:12 a.m. Not quietly. Not like someone sneaking in. No, she slammed the door, hard, as if she wanted to wake me up. As if she thought she still had that right. I was already awake, sitting on the living room floor with the envelope of photos spread out in front of me like evidence in a courtroom I never agreed to stand in. The disposable camera, the flash drive, the letter, all of it was laid out neatly on the coffee table, like I was preparing for an autopsy. And in a way I was. The autopsy of our marriage. When I heard her heels click against the tile, I didn't move. I just sat there, heart cold, waiting for the moment to finally arrive. She stopped in the doorway when she saw me. There was a second, a beat of hesitation, where I thought maybe she'd run. Maybe she'd pretend like none of this ever happened. Maybe she'd try to lie again. But then she did something that surprised me. She sat down. No words. No dramatics. She just dropped her purse onto the floor and sat across from me like we were two tired co-workers forced into a meeting after hours. For almost a minute, neither of us spoke. Then I said, "I found the safe." Her eyes dropped to the table. She saw the flash drive, the envelope, the camera. Still, she didn't say anything. "You knew someone was watching us," I said. "Didn't you?" Her lips parted slightly, but her voice, when it finally came, wasn't defensive. It wasn't cold. It was terrified. "I don't know who they are," she whispered. I swear, I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But I'd spent the last week watching every piece of the woman I married fall apart, revealing someone I didn't recognize underneath. "You've been lying to me for months," I said. "About where you go, who you see, what you're doing. I found the motel. I found the guy with the tattoo. I know about the money." Her head snapped up at that last part. "You talked to Trex? Is that what he calls himself?" She nodded slowly, then covered her mouth like she hadn't meant to say it aloud. "I was supposed to deliver something," she finally said. "Not drugs. I'm not a dealer. It was just a drop. A favor. I didn't ask questions." Who did you do the favor for? She hesitated. Then, a guy named Quinn. I met him through a friend. He said he worked in tech, that he needed help moving some encrypted drives between clients. Nothing illegal, he said. He paid well. Cash. And you just believed him? No, she admitted. But I didn't care. We needed the money. You were barely holding on to your job. We were drowning. I didn't want to ask you for help again. You always looked at me like I was a burden. That stung. Not because it was true, but because part of me knew I had made her feel that way, whether I meant to or not. And the guy from the flash drive? I asked. The one who left me a message? Her face went pale. I don't know who that is. Don't lie to me again. I'm not. I swear. Her hands were shaking now. I think he's watching both of us. I started getting notes. In my car. In my locker at the gym. I thought it was Quinn messing with me after I said I was out. But the messages, they're not threats. They're warnings. Warnings about what? She looked up at me then. Really looked at me. And for the first time in months, I saw the woman I married. Not the version she became, but the version from before. The girl who used to dream about opening a bakery. Who cried at documentaries. Who kept broken earrings because they reminded her of her sister. I think I got in over my head, she said. And I think someone wants me to pay for it. A silence fell between us again. Heavy. Uneasy. I picked up the last photo, the one of me through the window. I held it out to her. Then why did they send me this? She took it with trembling fingers, stared at it, then looked back at me with glassy eyes. I think they're trying to push you away. Scare you. Make you leave me. They don't need to, I said quietly. You already did that yourself. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just nodded. I know. I should have told her to get out. Should have yelled. Broken something. Anything. But instead, I stood up, walked to the hallway, and said the last thing I'd say to her that night. Whatever's coming next, you're not dragging me into it. I closed the door behind me. And on the other side, I could hear her finally fall apart. I didn't go to work the next day. I didn't even pretend to. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, staring at the photograph of myself through the window and the flash drive beside it, as if one of them might blink and give me answers. The house was quiet, too quiet, and I knew Mara was still there, locked in the guest room, probably hoping I'd leave before she had to face me again. But I wasn't going anywhere. Not yet. I couldn't. Because I had a new obsession now. One name. One thread. And I was going to pull it until something snapped. Quinn. It sounded too clean. Too made up. Nobody with that kind of power, with black SUVs and silent gloves, went by their real name. So I did what I hadn't done in years. I logged into my old developer forums, the anonymous ones from back when I freelanced cybersecurity gigs on the side for extra money. Back when Mara and I still had dreams bigger than debts. I posted on a burner thread, looking for a client called Quinn. No paperwork. Paid in cash. Requested encrypted drives delivered. Maybe linked to silent surveillance ops. Name likely alias. Within an hour, I got a ping from someone with an old handle I recognized, Yardfire. We'd exchanged freelance advice years ago, but never spoke directly. His message was short. You worked for Quinn? I replied, no, but someone close did. That name's popped up in Greynet circles. Quiet. Surgical. Not a hacker. A cleaner. That last word made my blood go cold. Cleaner. I messaged again. Cleaner like Hitman? Not quite. He covers things. Deletes them. People, evidence, problems. Doesn't kill. He erases. Some say he used to work corporate counterintelligence. Government adjacent. Not confirmed. But when Quinn's involved, the truth never sticks around. I stared at the screen, trying to process it. A man like that. And Mara got involved with him for what? A few $100? Out of desperation? No, not just desperation. Stubbornness. Pride. And maybe something else. I logged off. That evening, I decided to do something dangerous. I opened Mara's old storage bin in the garage, the one she hadn't touched since we moved in. She always said it was just high school junk and sentimental crap. But when I lifted the lid, something immediately felt off. On top was a pile of yearbooks and photo albums. But underneath, tucked beneath an old hoodie and a half-shredded wedding invitation, was a notebook I'd never seen before. It wasn't hers. It was mine. My old notebook from 5 years ago, the one I'd used during a consulting gig I walked away from after 2 weeks. A job I never talked about. One that ended with a signed NDA and a bad gut feeling. I opened it. Inside were sketches, passwords, fragments of conversations, and then a sticky note with a scribbled word. Quinn. I sat down hard on the garage floor. This wasn't new. This didn't start with Mara. This started with me. 5 years ago, I took a contract from a man who went by Q. He paid in crypto. No name. I was supposed to audit his server security, just a back-end sweep. But I remember the logs were weird. Redacted metadata. File structures that looked more like spy databases than startup code. When I asked questions, he ghosted. Paid me instantly. Disappeared. I moved on. Told myself it was sketchy, but harmless. But now, I realized Mara must have found this notebook. She must have connected the dots. And maybe, just maybe, she reached out to him behind my back. Because of me. Because I'd brought this poison into our lives and didn't even realize it. I staggered back inside the house. Mara was still in the guest room. I didn't knock this time. I barged in. She jumped up from the bed, startled. You found the notebook, didn't you? She said. I froze. You knew? I asked, my voice shaking. I didn't mean to find it, she said. I was just looking for something to wrap your birthday gift in last year. And it fell out. I recognized the name from a conversation I overheard at that lounge. One of the guys mentioned Quinn. I asked. I followed a trail. And then, I met him. I wanted to scream. I wanted to collapse. I couldn't decide which instinct to follow. So you reached out to him. Because of me. She nodded slowly. I thought maybe if I fixed whatever you were mixed up in, maybe I could clean it up without you knowing. I thought I was protecting you. My laugh came out hollow. You thought sleeping with criminals was protection? I didn't sleep with him, she shouted. You think I'm a monster? I was scared. I got in too deep. And I didn't know how to get out. Then why didn't you just tell me? Her voice dropped. Barely audible now. Because I didn't think you'd believe me. You stopped seeing me years ago, Kelton. You were too busy drowning in your own quiet failures. The room fell silent. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have words, but because I finally understood that we were both broken, just in different ways. And somehow, that brokenness had pulled us into a vortex neither of us could escape. But someone was still out there, watching, pulling strings. And that someone wasn't done with us yet. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Too late to fix it now? But if you want to survive what's coming, meet me. Midnight. Room 302. Bring no one. And the sender? Q. Midnight. Rain falling like a drum line on the windshield. The world was soaked in silver and shadow. I parked 3 blocks away from the address and the text. A nondescript roadside inn called the Waverly. Run down, flickering neon. The kind of place you drive past without ever wondering who stays inside. Perfect for ghosts like Quinn. I left my phone in the glove box. No backup, no wires. Just my wallet, a flashlight, and the weight of everything I discovered. Room 302 was at the very end of the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled like mildew and regret. I counted the doors as I walked. 298. 300. 302. The door was cracked open. I knocked anyway. A voice, low, calm, amused, said, "Come in." I stepped inside. He was there, sitting at a small table, arms folded, like he'd been expecting me for years. Dark clothes. Clean-shaven. Unremarkable face. A man you'd never notice in a crowd. "You made it," he said. "That's rare." I didn't respond. I just stared. "You're wondering why I've been watching you," he said. "Why I sent the flash drive. The camera. Why I let Mara get so close." Still, I said nothing. Quinn smiled faintly, like he enjoyed the silence. "I wasn't after her," he continued. "I was testing you. That got my attention." "Testing me for what?" I asked. "For what you were supposed to become," he said. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were surveillance photos. Of me. But not recent. Older. Me working. Me installing security frameworks. Me interfacing with classified tools when I freelanced 5 years ago. "You were good, Kelton," he said. "You saw things most people miss. And then you walked away. You had the instincts, but no appetite." I swallowed hard. "Why the games?" I asked. "Why involve Mara?" "She was already involved the moment she touched your past," he said. "You left a window open. She crawled through it. I just lit the match." I could feel the anger rising again, but then he said something I didn't expect. "You did the right thing," Quinn said. "You didn't lash out. You didn't retaliate. You investigated. You endured. You faced your wife with restraint. That's rare. It means you're not like the others." I stared at him. "What do you want from me?" He leaned back in the chair, studying me. Nothing anymore. I blinked. She chose not to betray you. Not in the way it mattered. And you chose not to destroy her when you had the chance. That means this ends here. I didn't trust it. You're just walking away? He stood up. I don't walk away, he said. I erase. And tonight, I'm erasing this chapter. He handed me a second folder. Inside, bank documents. Mara's name. Money transfers. Encrypted files. And at the bottom, a signed contract nullifying Mara's debt to Quinn. A full disconnect. She's clear. I asked. He nodded. And so are you. Then he walked past me, opened the door, and said over his shoulder, "Don't open doors you're not prepared to close next time, Kelton." He was gone before I could reply. The drive home was quiet. The rain had stopped. The sky was clearing. I found Mara asleep on the couch, arms wrapped around herself like she was holding onto the last good dream she had. I didn't wake her. I sat beside her, just sat there, breathing with her. She stirred an hour later, blinking through puffy eyes. "You came back," she whispered. "I never left," I said. And it was true. Even through everything, I had stayed. Not because I was weak, but because I needed to see it through. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not burn it all down. We talked until dawn. No screaming. No blaming. Just truths. She apologized. Not with excuses, just sorrow. And I listened. Because I finally understood. She hadn't betrayed me out of malice. She had been drowning, just like I had. And we'd both built walls instead of reaching for each other. In the end, there were no dramatic ultimatums. No declarations. Just the quiet agreement that we'd start over. Maybe not as husband and wife. Maybe not right away. But as two people finally telling the truth. We took down the cameras. Threw out the evidence. Burned the letters. And for the first time in what felt like years, I saw her smile. A real one. Not perfect. Not healed. But honest. And that was enough.